Marketer of the Day, number 418. Grow your business and help others using referral marketing with Mickey Griffith. Hey everyone, and thanks for listening. We're talking right now with Mickey Griffith from Asentiv, and Mickey's going to be talking to us today about this thing called referral marketing. And Mickey's mission in life is to help business owners pursue their passion and shine in a way that attracts the kind of clients and referral sources that bring them a spectacular life. So, Mr. Mickey, glad to be talking to you today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Glad to have you on. And so, can you kind of unpack a little bit about who you are and what you do here?
Sure. I am a referral marketing expert by way of having been a Referral Institute franchise owner for about 6 years. And then in the last year or so, we changed our name to Asentiv. So I have spent a lot of time in the last 6 years learning and teaching about referral marketing. And not surprisingly, turns out referral marketing has a lot to do with relationship development. So I spend a lot of time talking about how we behave ourselves.
All right, great. So I have to admit, I don't really know anything about this referral marketing stuff, or maybe I do. Maybe it was under a different kind of name or term. Who knows? So can you kind of tell us? So the stuff you do last 6 years, referral marketing. Can you tell us what that is?
Yeah, sure. And it's funny that you ask. I love that you actually asked the question, because a lot of people, you say referral marketing and they just go, oh yeah, I get it. And it's basically word of mouth marketing. And I'm sure you've heard that phrase before, word of mouth. So how do you get business? The majority of small business owners, when I say small business owners, I'm talking micro or just a little bit above that. I consider a small business to be something under, say, 25 to 50 employees. The Small Business Administration has quite a broader definition than that. But when it comes to those size businesses, and when you get down into the one-person business, such as yourself for consultant type work and what do they call it, freelancers, they do a lot of their business by word of mouth. We get referrals from people who have done work with us, who know us and are willing to pass us on to other people when they need help with something that we do. And that's the action of giving a referral.
Okay, and so I have to admit that that's the kind of thing where it's been very kind of hit or miss with that. Like sometimes somebody hears about me and I'm not really sure what the path was that took them there, or other times someone will ask me like, well, do you know a good virtual assistant? And I'll say, oh yeah, this person, and then really never hear back from from whoever I recommended to, or never even really kind of had a follow up there. And so I really like this idea, and I really think it would be great to kind of for me to be able to tap into that more, to be able to get talking to the people that I want to talk to, and then also if there are people that come to me and if I have holes in my knowledge, to be able to pass them along to where they need to go. And so I mean, where do you guys come in? Where does Asentiv come in, and what do you guys do in relation to all this referral marketing, word of mouth stuff?
Perfect. Yeah, Asentiv is a worldwide company, so they're a franchise company, and we have franchises everywhere from Brazil to Portugal to Australia to Sweden, around the world. So we came out of the mind of Ivan Meisner originally, who is also the founder of BNI, which is Business Network International. It's the largest networking organization on the planet, and it is pretty amazing thing. He started out of his garage in 1985 in LA. And what BNI exists to do is to create a system for how to create networking groups and start them and launch them and continue to run them successfully. Because what Ivan ran into early on in 1985 and for years and years, and it's still prevalent, is people want to get referrals, but they don't know how to get them. So what he created was a great system for how to have consistent networking efforts, right? So his BNI is all about building a construct for people to do networking in. What he found out about 15 years into it was that the construct works really, really well. Part of the challenge is that there's a lack of education that goes into it, and you kind of hit on yourself. This whole referral marketing thing is really done as a DIY project, right? I don't know if you've ever seen like the memes about Pinterest fails, but I'm reminded of those when I think about it's all a DIY thing, right? So I don't know why my cupcake never turns out like the cupcake on Pinterest. Well, it's because the person that is doing it on Pinterest has crazy expertise in that field, right? Well, anybody can make a cupcake, but can you make a cupcake amazing like that? And that's where we come in, is to say, all right, anybody can go out and network, anybody can go out and shake hands, they can quote unquote get their name out there. I'm sure you've heard that before. The challenge is, how do you turn that into a real system with strategies in place, targets in place, a clear message about who you're trying to go after, and then what are those strategies, and with who do you perform those strategies to make all of those goals happen?
That's a great question. I'd love to know how to do all that.
Well, how much time do we have?
Not long enough, right?
Not long enough. Well, however long we have, I'm glad to share with you. I'm not a hoarder of my information. I tend to give it out quite a bit. Um, to start simple, if somebody was to come to me and say, Mickey, I want to get more referrals, the first thing we'd really have to talk about is them. And that is, okay, you want more referrals, but what does that mean? I mean, does that mean you just want me to bury you in referrals? Well, we could put together a system where you're getting tons of referrals. And we might also ruin your business by wasting your time chasing referrals that are never going to happen, right? Because there's a quality to the level of a referral that you get. You might get a referral that's just a little better than a lead versus a referral where somebody walks in with a check and says, here, go to work.
Okay.
So there's a gradation of how that quality of referral shows up. So when somebody comes to me and they say, I want to get more referrals, the first thing I have to know is, what do they want? What are they, and oftentimes this leads to life. What do you want in life? What kind of lifestyle are you looking for? Contrary to popular belief, not everybody needs to have a mansion on a hillside. In fact, I rarely get that as somebody's vision for their future. I think that we're wired to be a bit more pragmatic than that. But I really need to know. For one person, I'll give you an example. A client that I worked with, when she first showed up, she had been running a roofing company for many years. Her name is Letitia Hankey. She is with ARS Roofing in Sonoma County. She's an amazing lady. And she had a roofing company that was successful. She was doing well, but she wasn't sure where she wanted to go. And it turns out that her heart really is in this nonprofit organization that she wanted to start, but she never had the time to do it because she wasn't managing her marketing properly. And there was some other business stuff that we talked about too, about how to improve delegation and just that behavioral relationship stuff within her own company. So if I hadn't known what she wanted in life, it would have been very hard for me to coach her around what kind of people she wants to hang out with that will help her build her dream with her business. That's not necessarily just about roofing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So, and it sounds like you maybe go deeper into what the person's life goal in their business is compared to other people. Other people might be saying, well, what kind of referral do you want? Who do you want to be connected with? It sounds like you go into, well, what's your ultimate goal? So that might mean that someone might have to change the trajectory of where their business is headed.
Yeah, and that's clearly up to them. In fact, I was coaching with somebody this morning that has had some shifts happen in her business, some by her own choosing, some not by her own choosing. She's met with some successes and some not so successes. And it's time for her to revisit her vision and really look at, what is it that she really wants out of this business. And the last time we worked on her vision was about 3 years ago, and it's time for a change. Some things went the way she wanted them to, some of them didn't. Some of the things that we've talked about she's implemented, some of them she hasn't. And this whole idea of just setting a goal and going getting it, especially when it comes to referral marketing, there's a lot that can be done and there's a lot that can be measured. The question is really whether or not people jump in and are willing to do it. And I'll give you one of my favorite examples. I compare myself with a personal trainer quite a bit. So if I was a personal trainer and you came to me and said, hey, Mickey, I want to lose some weight and, get in better shape, I'd say, okay, here's what we're going to do. Here's the plan. We're going to plan for the proper food. We're going to make sure you have a good meal plan. We're going to work out properly. We're going to work out consistently. And I'm going to rah-rah you as much as I can. I'm even going to beat you up a little bit if I got to. But the real challenge is at the end of the day, I'm not going to come over to your house and slap the burrito out of your mouth, right? So the same thing is true for referral marketing and coaching of any kind, really, is to say, I'm going to coach you on exactly what you need to do. You need to be networking enough. You need to be networking with the right people. You need to be doing it often enough and not too much. And you also need to pay attention to this, and this in your business that impacts your credibility and whether or not you're going to get referrals. And then it's really up to the people that I coach with for them to go home and do that.
Okay, great. So
yeah.
I mean, it sounds a lot like so you guys you do coaching. You don't do as much of like a done for you. It sounds like.
Say that done for you. Is that what you said?
Yeah, like so. Let's say like this roofing company person came to you and said, here's what I want. Here are my goals. Would you like say like here are these people you need to add to your team, or here are these customer leads, or would you say here are these networking events you should attend?
Yes. So it's a yes and yes. Anything's possible depending on time and money in that great continuum. But most of what I do is coaching. I had a friend of mine that was a business consultant a couple years back that said the difference between a coach and a consultant is a coach will tell you how to ride the bike. The consultant will actually get on and pedal for you if you need. Right.
Okay.
And there are points where I will get on and pedal to some extent, but it's really more about me. I'm much more about teaching somebody and really watching them be able to implement what they want to the way they want to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And so you do this coaching for people, and when people come to you, it sounds like a big sort of gap people are having. One is that they don't have their life goal figured out, but kind of aside from that, when people come to you, do you see like a common problem happening with people, or just like, if say like the majority of people come to you with like the same sort of universal problem, anything like that?
This is a super solid question, Robert. Great question. Because it's easy to say that it would be easy for people to assume that I like to work with newer businesses because they're just trying to create their business, and that couldn't be farther from the truth. I basically see about three different types of three different things that people show up. The first version of it, the early version, is along the lines of the newer business owner or somebody who's been struggling for a while, and that is, I need business, right? They're showing up and saying, okay, you talk about referral marketing. You can help me bring people in. I need business. Great. We got plenty of material to talk about how to get more business. That's version one. The second version that shows up is, I need better business. So that is to say they've got enough business. In fact, in many ways, they're a little bit too busy, but they're not crazy about the kind of clients that they're getting. And they're not crazy about the kind of work that they're doing. So then that's a different conversation, right? If you're getting enough business, but you don't like the kind of work that you're having to do, and you're not really crazy about your clients, then we're really talking about making sure that we're getting better quality referrals that bring you to what you want. And then the third version that people show up with for us is, I want my life back. And this is the kind of person, and Letitia is kind of this way, in that she wanted to have this nonprofit organization, but she also wanted to have her life back because she is a very busy lady. And you wouldn't think that referral marketing necessarily has a lot to do with it, but a lot of what we touch on was exactly what she needed. So building a specific vision, knowing what kind of clients and what kind of referral relationships we're going to get her to her vision, so that we can be more streamlined in how she goes about getting her referrals rather than networking herself to death. And all of those things tie into a more cohesive, sharper run business. That makes sense?
Yeah, so either they need to build that business in the first place, or the business is doing okay but not great. Something needs to change as far as the clients they get, the work they're doing, or the business is doing great but then personal life suffers and they need to get their time in their life and their lifestyle back.
Yeah, and I don't go so far as to call myself a life coach. I think that's where we kind of draw the line. I dip my toe in the life coaching, almost always, though, I'm relating it back to how it affects their business. And I'll give you a quick example. I was coaching with somebody last year sometime, and we must have spent about 45 minutes on marriage counseling because his wife works in the business with him. and they were just chafing, and they kept chafing over and over again. And part of it was that they just needed to set some clear boundaries about work life and home life, and that's what he needed in the moment, right? And was it really referral related? Not necessarily, but if you have you ever seen a husband and wife business? You walk in and the husband and wife are just throwing down, and they're not, they're arguing with each other and not communicating well and everything else. It affects how the business looks, and it affects how people feel about going into that business. So it's relative, but it's really very personal too.
Okay, so when you do this coaching, I mean, what do these coaching sessions actually look like typically? Like, is it like a hour a week thing on the phone or Skype or in person? How does this coaching work?
Good question. So most of my coaching is done remotely, and it's done either on Skype or Zoom or occasionally on the phone. But I really like to see people's faces. There's a lot that we tell with our face without using our words, so that's kind of important to me. But all of my clients are remote at this point, except for one, and I meet with him face to face. I meet with two of my clients face to face. Sorry. And that's at least an hour a month. And then about every 2 weeks, I also have about a half-hour phone call follow-up with them to see if they're staying on track. The session itself runs, it's kind of an organic process, even though I have a set of things that I like to go over. I always want to check in on the goals. We always want to check in on their referral sources and how they're developing relationships, and how they're managing their time is also a big question with a lot of my clients. So those are the main things that we talk about. The reason I say that it's organic, though, is when I get somebody on a coaching call, right from the get-go, I want to check in with where they're at. Where's your head? Sometimes they're in the game, they're really ready to go, and what they need is a good kick in the backside to get moving, and just they're sharp, but they want some direction. That's another thing. Or they'll show up and they've had something completely derail their week, and it's important to talk about how we manage that and compartmentalize it as a business owner, and still go about our business but still take care of our personal life. And that can be a thing in a coaching session too. So I like to keep it organic that way.
And so when you kind of dive into that part, you ask them, where's your head? How are things at? I mean, how do you bring that kind of thing up, and what's the answer usually?
Well, the good thing with the clients that I have is I get really close with my clients. My clients in many ways are friends of mine, even though we have clear lines drawn. But when you talk about personal development and you talk about building relationships with people can't help but share who they are. They tend to share who they are as we go through this process. Many of my coaching clients I've been with for over 3 years, and I know them very, very well. So when we get on the coaching call and we start talking about how they're doing, sometimes they just need to talk for a little bit, and that's part of what we do. I don't want to make it sound like we have a life coaching session every time we have a session, but the reality is, if you're going to have personal relationships with people in order to grow your business, then it is going to be personal, and we need to find out where their head is so we can make sure that they're making good decisions.
Cool. So it sounds like you can kind of just like read them based on their voice, and you said that you like to have them on camera if possible. That way you can kind of pick up on their body language, so that way if their head's not right, or if there's a deeper issue, like you said, you're not a life coach, but if that elephant in the room isn't dealt with, it doesn't matter what else you plan or what else they do if there's that big major thing holding them back.
Yeah, that's a great way to say it. I have a client who's particularly strong-willed, I'll say, and I love clients like that because they need to be pushed, right? They need somebody to stand up to them and say, "Hey, you know what? You this needs to be attended to." And I was talking with him in a coaching session about making a decision that he didn't want to make. He knew what decision he had to make, but he really did not want to have the conversation that I wanted him to have, that he knew was the right conversation to have. And we were going through the conversation, but his body language was totally telling the story. He was squirming in his seat. He wouldn't look me in the eye. He was clearly uncomfortable with what we were talking about, but in my experience, success lies outside of your comfort zone. So I wouldn't not have seen that on the phone, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does, and I completely agree with all that. And so we've kind of covered some interesting ground so far. So people out there, it sounds like they need to have a coach, and then even what they do, they need to be clear on what they want and what their goal is. And it sounds like as part of your introductory process, you guys, talk about that and figure out what they want, and just the fact that you need to talk about it with them in and itself sounds to me like people don't really explore that part of it too much. And then once you meet with them, then it's a matter of, well, figuring out, well, are you growing a business? Are you trying to fix the business? Or are you trying to fix your life? And then based on that, you figure out, and there's also an important reminder there of knowing where your numbers are at, your goals, your referral sources, your time management, is your head right? And then you can kind of take some actions. And then, so off the top of your head, with all these coaching clients that you deal with, once all the crap, I guess, is dealt with, and it's time to go out there and do some, like, either networking or hire some employees or do some better marketing and all these things, is there usually like a common actual action people are missing out on that you just keep seeing over and over again? Or is it just like it's completely different depending on which client you have?
Boy, that's a really good question. It's like you've done this interview stuff before. Um, I'd love to say that it's all really common to see one thing happen, but you're right. It's so individual. There are some commonalities, but they're not right for everybody. So I don't want anyone to think that this is the way it always is. Used to be that people were networking to death. There was about 6 years ago when I first got in this, people just couldn't stop networking. Now I can't get people to go out and network enough. and
Interesting.
it's here's the biggest killer in referral marketing is out of sight, out of mind. We have got to stay on people's radars, and there's a certain measure that the social media helps us with, and I'm a fan of social media. I use it a lot. And at the same time, there's just something to be said about spending time in proximity with people, and it leads to more interaction, and it allows us. Brene Brown talks about vulnerability. It allows us some vulnerability that I don't think we get as much on social media, and in the right way, in a healthy way. And so the big one, as far as staying on track with what you were asking, is that I'm seeing people not stay on people's radars enough. So part of that's networking, but part of it is your personal relationship with people. If they don't see your face or hear from you often enough, we're out of sight, out of mind. There's a very busy culture, and it's easy to forget people.
So having said that, can you think of a simple exercise that people should do in this day and age? Like, should people make an effort to attend one more local event, or maybe reach out to someone on email that they haven't reached out to in a while? Or should people be randomly Facebook messaging or run Facebook lives? Does anything really come to mind as far as just if someone is listening here today and they want to do just a quick 5 to 10 minute exercise to do more of this networking that they're missing? Anything like that come to mind?
Yeah, the easy thing I'd say right off the bat is definitely what you said about hitting a local networking thing. So your Chamber of Commerce or a BNI group, even something as far as a Rotary or some sort of service network like that, service group like that, would be good. Need to be in the public at least once a month, at least. And I would say if I was coaching somebody, it needs to be a lot more than that, but very controlled and very specific. So get out. As self-employed people, we tend to be hermits. We like to stay at home, and we've got to get out and actually see real people. And the other thing I would say is the person who gives you the most referrals. This is a great exercise. I double dog dare your listeners to do this. The person who has given you the most referrals in the last year, that is not a client. So that is what we call a contact sphere. So Robert, you do some programming stuff we were talking about, yes?
Yes.
Yes. So I would say the web developer who's given you the most referrals over the last year that you could also give referrals back to, I double dog dare you to meet with that person every other week for the next 6 weeks.
Okay.
Excellent. I would say through the end of the year would be great. Every other week for an hour, meet with them in person, that person only. And your whole purpose of talking with them is how can we purposefully move people towards a referral to each other rather than waiting for them to fall out of the sky.
Cool. And I love that in so many ways. Number one, it's that you're singling someone out who's already been proven to send you these people your way. Number
Exactly.
two, because you meet in person, it overcomes that the modern day stigma of Facebook and of all of us work at home people who are just afraid to even put on pants and get out of the house. And
Right.
then, and it's also great because it's coming from the positioning of, well, you did all this great stuff for me. Now I want to return the favor and make this relationship a little more equal on both ends as opposed to you just sending me stuff.
Well, and you really added the most important part on that. The purpose when you reach out to these folks is not to say, "Can you give me more?" The purpose is to reach out and say, "I think we could be helping each other more with referrals. I want to give you more referrals, but I need you to teach me how." That's where you want.
Yes.
That's where you want to start. They may look at you and go, "What do you mean you want to be taught how?" And that's a more complex question, but at least show up without trying to put your hands in their wallet, right? Show up and see how you can help.
Well, and I'm glad that you brought that part of it up right there. That how pushy to be or things like that, because like I'll go to a meetup group every now and then, or I've gone to like a chamber of commerce, and I did it I think once. And when I was there were maybe 7, 8 people in the room, and some of them had local businesses and things like that. And I wasn't really sure how to really present myself because I didn't want to be Mr. Pushy and say, here's all the stuff about me. I also didn't want to get stuck with the kind of person who would just be picking my brain and always be trying to get something free out of me. So is there a better mindset to have or a better way to go about it if we're in that kind of situation, like a networking environment, and we're not really sure, like, can I be assertive enough without being too pushy or being that kind of guy?
Right. Wow. So you got about 37 different things I could talk about right there. But I'll try and take them all at once. So two things that I find one of the main things that I find people struggle with when they go to a networking function is they don't know what to talk about. And so part of the thing that we work on with our clients for sure is how do you talk about yourself and your company, right? You do need to tell people who you are and what you do. There needs to be a little bit of bragging about yourself, but there's great ways to do it that don't sound horrible like a lot of the ones that you hear. So knowing how to speak about yourself in a respectful and humble way that will draw people to you, that's an important, valuable thing to work on. The other thing is people love to talk about themselves once they get going. And what you want to do is be able to ask questions. So I always tell people the who, what, where, when, why, how questions, right? Those are who are you and what do you do? Those are very common business questions. But then how long have you been doing that? How do you do the kind of work that you do? Where are you located? What kind of hours do you have? Who is your favorite kind of client to work with? That's a great question to ask people. And again, sadly, a lot of people don't know how to answer that really succinctly, but at least you're giving them the opportunity to talk about it. And the mindset that you talked about, I'm going to go ahead and quote Ivan Meisner, and that is networking is growing your business by helping others, right? Helping others as a way of growing your business. That's how he says it. Helping others as a way of growing your business. So when you show up to the networking event, if you show up with the mindset that I want to help somebody here, and that could be helping them by connecting them with something, it could be helping them by giving them advice, it could be helping them by referring them to somebody. There's lots of ways to help them without helping yourself to their wallet. If you do that, you got a far better chance they're going to remember you as somebody that they want to help back.
I love it. And especially if you make it a point to be in proximity with that kind of person, if you are you keep going to the same chamber of commerce meetings, or you drop by their business. If only there was a way to do that without being kind of a stalker. But I mean, yeah, a lot of this is making sense, and I think that just the thing that keeps coming into my mind as you're explaining the things that we should be doing that a lot of us aren't, just because for whatever happened in those last few years, as far as everyone getting too shy, what comes to mind is just like, if you 80% of life is just showing up, right? And then there's also the Zig Ziglar thing of like, you can get everything in life that you want if you just help everyone else get what they want. And so these are all great reminders, and maybe there's some things that we've heard in the past but ignored them, and it's really easy to hear some great advice and then ignore or let it slide for a couple of months. Next thing you know, you've gone years and years without networking enough. So for a lot of people, this could be a great wake-up call, a great reminder to get ourselves back out there and be in front of people, because it might be easier to go a little while by kicking back, staying home, just doing the day-to-day, but then eventually that's going to catch up to. So really important for us to get ourselves out there and get outside of our comfort zone and doing these things to grow our business, because if we don't, then I mean, good luck with whatever happens after that with you. So we talked about lots of great stuff, and I want to make sure that everyone who has now heard our conversation and has seen the light when it comes to referral marketing and coaching, and if maybe they want to reach out and see what you guys have to offer, where can they do that, and what should they be reaching out for exactly?
Perfect. Thanks. They should go to, if they want to talk to Mickey specifically and not just Asentiv at large, Mickey is in Sacramento. So if they go to, and I need to stress this on the website because this is the way that it's just constructed, http:// the normal thing, but no www. Do sacramento.asentiv.com, ASENTIV as in victory.com. So sacramento.asentiv.com. And the very best thing there to do is click on events and go to an event if you're local. If they're not local, they can email Mickey G, MICKEYG at asentiv.com.
All right, great. So if you're in the Sacramento area, go to sacramento.asentiv.com, click on events, get yourself to an event to see what's going on there. And then if you're not in the Sacramento area, then email Mickey directly at mickeyg@asentiv.com and figure out some kind of other local event that you can go to. And is that the only place? Do you have a blog or a podcast or a personal website, anything like that?
I do have a YouTube channel, but since I moved over to Asentiv, it's a little bit light. But Asentiv Sacramento is on YouTube. I'll be filling more of that in since I moved here. My old blogs are under Referral Institute SF. There's, I don't know, 70 or something of those out there. Those would be the best places. And then, of course, you can look me up on Facebook as well.
All right, great stuff. Just curious about all the different places to see where things are going on. So sacramento.asentiv.com. And then if someone wants to reach out, if they like the idea of this coaching thing and they want to email you to reach out, is that okay to do as well?
Yeah, absolutely. They can email me again, Mickey G at asentiv.com, Mickey, MICKEYG at asentiv.com. I appreciate you letting me drop all that stuff down there.
Yeah, it's what it's all about, right?
Yeah.
So, and then real quick, so as we're winding down here, so if someone, they want to talk to you directly and they want to figure out if this kind of coaching relationship works and they email you at that address, what should they say to you exactly to make things a little less scary for them?
They should say that they heard me on your show so that I know where they're coming from. I always want to know where I'm getting a lead or a referral from so I can thank the people appropriately. So they should say from your show so I know kind of what they've heard and how much they might know about me. And just be prepared to tell me about their business. I'm a pretty unscary guy. Once people sit down and have a conversation, I'm full of questions. I'm an incurably curious person, and they will just want to be able to answer questions. They also might want to put some business numbers together, have their business numbers in place. If they don't, that's not the end of the world, though. They should still send me an email.
All right, great. So make sure you go ahead and do that. Drop literally everything that you're doing and send Mickey an email at mickeyg@asentiv.com if you like what you hear today, because, I mean, so few people out there actually take the time to reach out. They are in learning mode. They're in student mode. They're checking out the podcast or checking out the books. But then after they get a couple of lessons here and there, they kind of write it down. They take notes. They don't implement. Well, how about now finally is the time for you listening to implement? You've got all this time before of studying, but now you've listened to this specific episode with Mr. Mickey Griffith. So now is your chance. This is your sign to go ahead and reach out. So sacramento.asentiv.com and mickeyg@asentiv.com. So everyone go ahead there and do it right now. And I want to thank you so much, Mr. Mickey, for stopping by and sharing some of this cool wisdom you have with us today.
Thanks a bunch, Robert. It's really been my pleasure. I'd like to leave you with one note. Even Michael Jordan had a coach. He didn't get to the playoffs and stop having a coach. All 6 rings he got, he had them partially because Phil Jackson helped him.
Perfect. So if it's good enough for Michael Jordan, good enough for the rest of us.
Maybe.
Have you had a chance to rate and review the show yet? If not, go right now to marketeroftheday.com/iTunes. Click View in iTunes and click the Ratings tab. We would really appreciate a 5-star rating or whatever you think is fair, plus a quick 1-sentence review to tell us how we're doing. Thank you very much and have a wonderful